Oh, yeah, it's Jason.
This is Bruce.
Yes, how's it going?
Very good.
Wait a minute, it says metal oldies. Am I an oldie? Oh, no. I'm teasing.
We've got Bruce Kulick on the line here, and you've kept yourself busy throughout these days, and you got some new projects on the go. Talk about what you're doing.
Well, of course, the new solo record is, it took a long time to get it together and something I'm extremely proud of, and I can't wait to share it with everybody, of course. So I got to say, this is the culmination of a lot of hard work, and I'm just completely thrilled that it's finally going to be released and distributed, which is something unlike the other two solo records I did. So I'm just it's a real exciting time right now for my career.
BK3. You got a lot of studio musicians collaborating on this?
Well, I'd call them more featured guests than studio guys, if you know what I'm saying, because certainly Gene doesn't usually do anything other than Kiss work, and his son Nick is brand new to the recording world, which I was very proud to have his efforts, both his lyrics and his singing style. Lukather is a guy that obviously has played on many, many, many famous records, from Michael Jackson to Toto, of course. I think Doug Feiger will surprise a lot of people because, in some ways he's known, for that big hit by Sharona and Good Girls Don't, but he really owns this song. I loved what he did for that. And the German guy, Tobias, is a terrific singer that not everybody knows. He's very well known in parts of Europe and South America, but I think he's going to surprise a lot of the Kiss fans. Eric turned me on to him, actually, Eric Singer, and Eric plays drums on that track. So, yeah, I mean, there's a story behind every featured guest, but I have to say that they all really, gave their all,
And this is to be released in February 2010?
The top of February, it's February 2nd in North America and the very end of January in the rest of the world, correct?
Now, Bruce, you got some interesting guitar tones throughout the years. What would you say is your favorite guitar tone that you're using?
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple of go-to guitars and amps that I seem to always favor, and one would be this old Les Paul that I own that's been on from Paul's solo record with my brother when he owned it to, God Gave Rock and Roll on Revenge, and of course it appears on BK3. It's just a killer sound. This Les Paul has got all the mojo of one of the very expensive ones, although it was an earlier one that was kind of modified to be like a 59 Les Paul, which is the holy grail of guitars, It photographs quite well, too. And I have a couple of really nice Marshall heads, one in particular that's back from the Kiss years that just has a terrific sound. And then there's a couple of ESP guitars that I own that I've recorded many, many times with that just give me the sound that I want. So I kind of get comfortable with certain things. And, though I have to be clear and say that, there's always a lot of mystery behind, like, Slash obviously sounds like Slash because of his Les Pauls, but it's really his hands, you know what I mean? It's really the artist and how they apply their talent to the instrument. And would Slash sound the same if he was playing a Stratocaster? Probably not, okay? But you'd still hear that whatever it is that is like kind of recognizable about Slash on any kind of guitar, But using the right guitar and the right amp and the right tool and having, a good creative team around you is going to make I think you shine, and that's what I set out a goal to do on BK3, and I feel like I've accomplished that.
Yeah, the Asylum album, what did you use for guitars and stuff?
When we did the Asylum record, I got to be honest, of course I was playing then the Charvel guitars, and I just got introduced to ESP guitars. But I was using a Marshall head, I think that they, in other words, their amplifiers that they had from the warehouse. And I didn't always love them, but again, like I was using the reference before about Slash, I think your sound is a lot in your hand anyway. And if you noticed, different Kiss albums sound different, just like, depending on which producer worked on it and which engineers you have. But, certainly Revenge is a heavier sounding record than Crazy Nights or Asylum, but, it's still undeniable that it's Kiss, right?
Right.
So it's still me, but I wasn't always crazy about my guitar sound in some of the earlier Kiss records, but it's more because I wasn't as well defined as to what my role would be. I think I really hit my stride in Hot in the Shade and and revenge as to like how I want to put my signature tone on Kiss records.
Now, you played a little bit of on Animalize album. Is that true?
Yes, I was invited, of course, because of the fact that that was like my first ghost guitar work with the band, which was, I was still, of course, flattered to be asked, but I knew I wouldn't be credited. But I can talk about it, it's not a problem. It was just a simple thing where, I was the guy that Paul called instead of my brother. He called me. It's called Ghost Guitar Work.
Yeah.
And it was fun. The only thing unusual about that session that day was Paul was very clear in saying to me, don't cut your hair. My hair was probably about shoulder length then, and I didn't know why he said that, but I think he was well aware that Mark St. John was having some health problems at the time and thought, like, well, if we're going to go tour for Animalize, we're going to need a guitarist, and if we're going to ask a guitarist, we may as well ask Bruce. So that was interesting.
And make you look like Mark St. John, which you didn't.
Well, it was a very awkward time. I mean, in the same way that they never made a big announcement about Tommy filling in for Ace, sometimes it's best to just, move forward and not deal with the, unusual kind of like, a statement of like, well, who it is on guitar. I know people thought I was either Mark or was I Ace or, it was kind of strange. I mean, that was without the makeup, but you'd think it would be a little clearer then,
yeah.
If you know what I mean. But that's just the way that went back then, and obviously by the time we did Asylum, it was pretty clear that it's Bruce on guitar and not Mark and not anybody else. So things all happen for a reason. You never understand them at the time, but they all happen for a reason.
You're also the first Kiss member in history to use your real name. That must have been good.
That is an interesting point. You are correct. And I think that was just, again, I kind of snuck in there, if you know what I mean, that I wasn't originally going to be I was just filling in, and by then it was, well, if you say it like Kulick, it's kind of a fun rock name.
Yeah, that is a good name too, actually. I never realized it like that.
Yeah, I know. That's the way John Corabi would always introduce me. Bruce Kulick.
Now, you played a gig with Kiss in '84 with Mark St. John on that stage. Not much is said about that gig. What do you recall from that show? Yeah,
I mean, there was a couple of things that happened while I eased my way into the band. First, of course, I went to Europe as the guitarist, and then when I got back, I think they just wanted to give Mark the shot, at least, since he was the featured guitarist in the artwork and all over Animalize. 95% of the guitar work or 90% of the guitar work was him. So they had him travel along with us. I already felt pretty confident that the gig would be mine because it was really coming together in Europe, the way we were playing together. And I think just out of whatever, I don't know if it was a contractual thing that they felt like they had to let him try, but they let him try. And, one time we kind of like, traded off where he did half the show and I did the other half of the show. I think one time he might have done the entire show, but that was the last show he did, if you get what I mean. I think it was pretty obvious that they were more comfortable with me, and that was a very interesting time in the history of the band. But I think it was what they had to do, and obviously it worked out in my favor.
While you guys play, was there 3 guitar players at once on that stage?
No, it was never like that. It was just like it was kind of like pitch hitter, you know what I mean? A different guy comes in,
and then you're just off the stage.
Yeah. Exactly. Wow. It was weird. It was very surreal. But I understood what was going on. I mean, they wanted to see, well, look, we got to give this a try. So he got a chance to watch the show, learn what I did, and that was kind of weird. I made the best of it. We used to jam backstage sometimes, Mark and I. Why not? I got another guitar player on the road that might be taking the gig from me. I may as well warm up with another musician, right? What can I say?
And how was Mark as a person?
Mark was cool about it. I mean, I think it could have been much more awkward, and it wasn't. So I don't think he was really pleased going home.
Right.
But it had nothing to do with me, you know what I mean, personally. So.
But it is an interesting situation.
Yeah, of course. Very, very few bands have ever maybe gone through something like that. But either way, it like I said, it worked out the way it was supposed to.
Ever meet Vinnie Vincent?
I knew Vinnie a little bit before Kiss. because he worked at one of the music shops on 48th Street in Manhattan. But and there'd be an occasional run-in during the Kiss years. But I have to say I don't really know the guy very well. I've heard a lot of things about him, but I don't know him very well.
Do you ever listen to the Lick It Up album and hear his guitar tone compared to later years?
I mean, what I was most impressed with was I thought that he wrote well with Paul and Gene. I thought, of course, whatever went on a record was undeniably what Paul and Gene wanted as Kiss, which fit. I thought the live stuff, I thought Vinny took way too many liberties, which were really not really gonna work for the band. But eventually, you know, he was fired anyway because he didn't want to play ball with Gene and Paul the way you know you need to. So that was the end of that.
Right after you join Kiss, basically, they take out the guitar solo.
But they stuck it back in. By Asylum, I was doing a big guitar solo. You know, don't know why on Animalize, but I guess I was relieved because that might have been, you know, maybe too much attention to the guy that nobody knew who the hell he was. You get what I mean? You know, so believe me, even though you know you have a point, but there's probably a reason. There was a year where we decided let's not do a drum solo, let's do more songs. You know, and Eric Carr was very upset about that. But there was a reason. We were trying to put more classic songs in the set.
Just going to your new band, you're in Grand Funk Railroad, correct? Still?
Yeah, it's been 9 years of me touring with Grand Funk. Yeah.
Is there ever going to be an album of original songs with Bruce Kulick on this?
Well, you know, we did write quite a bit of material that some of those songs are still performed live. And there was one really terrific ballad that I wrote with Max the singer and Don. I think it was just Max and I, actually, that we used to do. But we have like a really, really fine-tuned set right now that we're kind of sticking to. Now, on the product end of things, whether or not Grand Funk would release something live or us going to the studio, I would welcome that, but it doesn't seem to be a big priority for Don and Mel. So I respect that, you know, and they take up about a third of my year, you know, between the 40 or so gigs we do each year with the travel. But it's not really up to me, you know. I mean, in the same way that Kiss is controlled by Gene and Paul, you know, and Grand Funk is controlled by Don and Mel.
When you played on Carnival of Souls album, it was made before the album, right? You guys knew that the album was going to be released?
When we went in the studio to do that album, we absolutely, the band with Eric Singer and myself, had a record deal with, you know, Mercury or Polygram, whatever. And I think that was a smart kind of decision on Gene and Paul's part, that even though that they were negotiating a reunion tour that was being offered, it would be silly not to, shall I say, move forward with the current band, just in case something imploded. Because the truth is, who knew what was going to happen with Peter and Ace, you know, at that point? And why should they destroy or take away the recording opportunity of the current band, you know? In the end, of course, we know the reunion tour, you know, exceeded anyone's expectations, which put the record on the shelf for like almost a year. And I was convinced it was never coming out. There were all these bad bootlegs circulating. It was very stressful for me, to be honest. But in the end, it did come out. And they made it look like kind of like a bootleg, which was kind of cool, you know what I mean? So that's all kind of like working out.
And you got your own song on that CD too that you're singing.
Yes, I very much am, you know, excited about the I Walk Alone, and it was a song that Gene and I worked really hard on, and I was very, very, very proud of it, that it came together.
Now you do a great guitar solo intro in Crazy Night's No 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 song. Is that part of your guitar solo itself, and it ended up into a song?
No, I think I had an idea to do an intro, you know, and that's the first time I've been asked about that. I remember one reviewer thinking it was a synthesizer.
Really?
I did put a chorus pedal on it, so I thought that was pretty funny that they thought it was a synthesizer. I think we just knew we wanted to start, like Van Halen would do things where there'd be a wild guitar with drums, if you think of Hot for Teacher. I probably was thinking along those lines, although the song is very different in feel, but that kind of like something. So I decided to do, you know, that riff. And it was just one of those kind of modern techniques that was popular then, but certainly a little different for Kiss. So it worked out. Fans liked that. Not saying it's the best Kiss song, but it was a good showcase for me and even Eric. Live, I think we used to fool around with it.
Real power in that one.
Yeah.
No.
Absolutely.
The guitar tones are still great on it.
Mm-hmm.
And
where are you from, by the way?
me, I'm from Nova Scotia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I hear. I wasn't sure where the accent was from, but I definitely hear it now. Okay, cool.
Yeah, right on. And still, my favorite of you ever was Asylum. I just don't know how you got that guitar tone. Is it with the certain mics and the maybe Marshall 800 amp?
No, they were more like some vintage Marshall late '70s heads, but some of them might have been modified. So, and the other thing, I think the cabinet we used might have had Electro Voice speakers, which are definitely different than the way a typical Celestian would distort. So that might be the missing link. If you could try an older, cleaner Marshall loud through like Electro Voice speakers, you might hear something like I had. I don't know. And that was a long time ago if you think about it.
And did you have like a little overdrive pedal to it, or just clean?
I think these were modded, so they were already distorted, and that's part of probably the sound that you're hearing is that they were not using. I wasn't using a distortion pedal or something like that. Is the fact that they were probably just modded heads, which means the unfortunate thing about the modded heads is that sometimes you can't replicate it again.
Right.
You know what I mean? You could do the same mod to another Marshall head, but there's so many tubes and capacitors and different parts that are going to interpret the amp differently. So I don't know. Thank you. Glad you like it.
Oh, it's my favorite. Bruce Kulick playing super guitar on a. I don't know. The sound is just killer. When's the last time you heard Asylum?
Well, when I need to study, like let's say, sometimes I need to review the Tears Are Falling track. I'll give it a listen. Probably this past month I was checking out some of the songs. I think we did Who Wants to Be Lonely live.
Wow.
So yeah, we just did that in Australia. That's a tough solo for me, actually. I forgot it. I don't think I ever learned it right for Australia in time, but that's what happens when you came up with something 25 years ago.
Yeah, there is some incredible guitar playing going on there.
Oh, thank you.
And there's one technique you used, and you probably still do. It's hard to explain on the phone, but it's like you're bending quick and you're bending. Mm-hmm. It's like it's a technique you use in Asylum mostly, and then it disappeared.
Well, I did a lot of overbending on that, and it could have been like an overbend, but then with a hammer on, So yeah. I did hear some of that on some of the earlier Kiss stuff, and Gene and Paul they really pushed me. They wanted a very, I wouldn't use the word extreme, but they wanted very exciting guitar playing, So right. I tried to give them what they wanted, of course.
And it was exciting,
Yeah, great.
How long is it gonna take you to go back and maybe join Kiss again for a reunion, you think?
Well, it's not up to me. I do miss playing with the guys, and I did get to see the show in Anaheim. Not the whole show, but I got to hang out backstage. And, I got to admit that in makeup I don't miss anything because, I didn't want to be Ace, if you know what I mean.
Right.
But if they ever thought about or really committed to doing like a Revenge era tour or something like that, I'd be really hurt if I wasn't there, if you get what I'm saying, or a Crazy Nights tour, But I don't wait for the phone to ring, okay, because it's just not realistic. You see what they're doing, and I'm happy they're out there and being current, and they put out a solid record, and that's all really good. But I have my career, and I need to just keep moving forward,
Draw your album.
Played that one in a while, although it's certainly on my iPod. And practically all the Kiss albums are,
Another way to look at it, when, let's say, a fan comes up to you, does he sometimes passes you a record that you're not on?
Right.
And do you still sign it?
I don't mind signing it because there's a good chance there'll be a song from that record that I've probably performed live with the band, so I don't have an issue with that. I think it would be weird if they handed me like an Ace poster to sign. You know what I mean? But I don't mind the record. I got asked even with Grand Funk, there are fans. They know that I'm not one of the original members, and I sign it. I don't make a big signature, but I sign it for them. If they want me to sign it, I'll sign it. There are certain artists that are very picky that way. They don't want to do that. Yeah, we'll stay away from Vinny questions, okay?
That's fine. You still
Yep.
touring right now, and do you have 2010 touring dates going on somewhere?
Well, obviously some of the Grand Funk dates are coming in, and don't know exactly what I'm going to do regarding, anything to support BK3. As you know, I wear a lot of hats, so I'll be busy with Eric Singer. When we can, we go off and do dates, and we've been to Europe a couple of times, in South America and Mexico and Japan and stuff like that. It's hard for me. It's funny how I usually know like 3 months in advance, but right now the only things I have on the calendar is some gigs with Grand Funk in January and February, and I haven't committed to anything else. Things will be there, and the best way to find it is Kulick.net.
Awesome site too, and you sell a lot of great merchandise.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just redesigned it, and I'm real proud of it. So.
Well, keep up the good work.
All right. Well, thanks, man, and thanks for the call, and just make sure you check out the site. I will have all the info for you. Okay, man.
All right, Bruce Kulick, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay.
Bye bye.
All right. Thank you. All right. Bye bye.